So, hey everybody, NovelistCrim here, and welcome to Writing Company and Motivation. What this is, it's an accountability stream where we get together and we push our dreams forward by writing day by day. So, essentially what this is, it's an accountability stream. We usually host this stream from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So, look forward to that. Just a little bit about like what the format of this channel is. Essentially, what we like to do here is we start off writing a journal entry, positive thoughts of like what's on my mind, anything that has to do with like writing. We definitely talk about that. We also address any writing discussions or challenges that I've been facing, advice that I could possibly give, things that are on my mind at the time. We go into about like 30 minutes to an hour detail about like you know, what we could discuss in that regard. We also take questions as well. One of the newest things that I've started doing here is putting a question channel on my Discord, so you can kind of like write the questions ahead of time, and then we can kind of like go through them and address them as we come, whatever sort of inspires us to answer. So it's pretty good. I'm excited to like include you guys a little bit even further into the content that we're creating here. It's kind of fun. If you guys are interested in the journal entries that I'll be working on, you can get them on our Discord by typing in !Discord in Twitch chat, and it'll pop up with a link that'll get you into our channel. Aside from that, I think we could just kind of get things started. So, let's swap into writing mode. We'll go into discussion mode so you can be more engaged. Let's see here. Alright, so I don't know what's been going on recently, but I feel in a stronger, better mood than has been in a really long time. I'm also starting to feel like a stronger push toward willpower and my own ability to try to accomplish goals. That doesn't speak to the results per se, because like, you know, I could be still motivated and like get a lot of things done, but whether or not the results of that is like yes, the chapter is done, or I created a lot of information that I discovered will not be used in the book. But you know, it still feels good that like I'm able to still move around, get messy, get things rolling, and keep the spirit of writing and trying to achieve the goal. So yeah, I don't know what it is, but it really does feel like there is a push towards getting things done. Like I really want to finish this novel. I really want to get this. I want to like improve my productivity. I've been saying it for a while now, and there are a lot of friends of mine who are like writers, and their productivity is phenomenal compared to like what I'm doing. And we can't really judge ourselves based on like what the other guy is doing, but that's not an excuse to like continue to stagnate or what's it called, to cling on to what you can perceive as your own. You know, I feel like there's always room for growth, and there's always room for you to overcome whatever is bothering you, or like, you know, whatever limitations that you have. And it's more about like, instead of just submitting to you know, your lot in life, it's trying to fight and find, okay, well, what method works? What can I do in order to like increase the speed? You know, there's obviously some kind of process, and there's always an answer to you know, the problems that we're having. So my most recent goal nowadays is to figure out, how can I increase productivity? It takes me about 2 to 3 weeks to produce a chapter for the novel. That is way too slow in my opinion. Like I really would like to cut it down to like a week's time if possible. Maybe even a couple of days if possible. I would really love to like have like a solid method for figuring out solutions quicker, and like kind of scheduling out the time and the goals necessary. I think one of the things that has been really lacking recently is trying to figure out my calendar and how it plays a role into the goal achievement. I think that having a calendar or having like some kind of like milestones or goals, and even like a system of rewards for yourself in order to like make sure that you're nice and happy while you're doing your work is kind of important toward gaining success. So, you know, today I was doing like a little bit of that, you know, you work and then you get like a reward type of thing. Like for 30 minutes, I decided, all right, well, I'm going to try to see what I can do to bash out as many words as possible. My minimum is that what I want is like 300 words in this like 30-minute span. I ended up doing like 600 and something, so not bad. And it wasn't great writing, I gotta say. Like, it was not it's not good, and I didn't really come up with the solutions that I wanted, but I got somewhere. And I feel like if I had all the pieces, it would probably, like, you know, connect a little better. So tonight we'll work on that, but I digress. Essentially, we're still struggling with chapter 10, and it is my hope that I can at least get it to a point where I can get half of it finished, like a good solid half of it, and then kind of like set that toward the writers group that we're going to be doing on Thursday, because I'd like to get some feedback on some of the stuff from the beta readers, and that'll be good. So let's move on to the writing portion, or at least the writing discussion of this show here. Let's see here. Before we begin, one thing I hear repeatedly is about writing faster is think about what you're going to write throughout the day before you sit down. That way, all you have to do is type unimpeded. Yeah, I've been listening to that actually. While I was doing my evening walk, getting some exercise and whatnot, I kind of like was listening to Brandon Sanderson, and he was mentioning that type of mentality where you would kind of like sit down, or like you would, you know, while you're mowing the lawn, while you're at work or whatever, you kind of like think think about what you want to do, and then make that like your goal. And I don't know if like what you know, how do I put this? I don't know the specificity requirement for that. Like, you know, how specific do you have to be in terms of your thoughts? I guess quite specific if you want to, like, you know, get it done as well as you can, right? So you probably have to have like a lot of information in your head that's like rolling around. I'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm gonna probably spend some time like I'm kind of excited for tonight, because like if I can spend some time working, you know, on camera, I feel like I'd be less likely to like fall asleep or you know, try to like want to wander around or dilly-dally. That's one of the things that I really appreciate about the stream, is because like if I'm not writing, I look like a jerk, don't I? Like it's like you know, it keeps you accountable, and it makes it like so that people are kind of like there watching and rooting for you to become this novelist, and if you just like fail at every turn, it's no bueno. So I'm kind of excited. All right, so let's go back to the what we got so far. So we got a couple of questions here on the Discord. One of the things that I've decided to do, and this was on inspiration of, again, what you guys have done in chat, specifically Justin, mentioning that he wish he had a way to like kind of make questions ahead of time, so that when we sit down for the stream, we're able to kind of like discuss that. And I thought that was a fantastic idea. So we have a questions board on our Discord where you guys could like come up with questions if you'd like, and if I can get to them, if I do have an answer, I will, you know, address them as, you know, as follows. I won't do it in chronological order. I'm not going to like you know, comment on every single one, but what I can certainly do is like if there's something that I can help on, I will certainly try. So and also we can certainly address things like at later dates if we have to, like circle back. But having this archive here is really fantastic and helps me kind of like help you, you know what I mean? It gives me something to ponder, and also it helps me unlock the secrets of writing, because some of these questions I don't even think about, you know. So having like your perspective on the craft of writing is kind of critical. It's really helpful. So, first question that we received today, and I'm not going to mention any names quite yet, since I don't know if anybody would like to exist in anonymity when these questions are, proposed. But the first question is, how long does it take to write your first draft versus the final draft? It's a good question. So, in terms of like my own journey with writing, I have an interesting relationship with the first drafts. Now, throughout most of my career as a writer, I've been like becoming a pro at writing the first act. Especially like, I don't know if you guys like fall into that trap, but as a newbie writer, one of the things that I did a lot of was I'd write first acts and nothing but, just like rewriting, and then like, by the time I was done with the first act, I didn't know what to do with the second one. So I kind of just like tucked and rolled and like, said, well, this idea won't work, so I'm just going to start up a new idea or a new thing that'll work, definitely, for sure. And it'd be like doing that over and over and over again. There are some projects that I went the distance with. There's some projects that I've accomplished fully. Some of them could be in the span of a month during NaNoWriMo. Some of them could have taken the span of like many years to accomplish. Like, I think one was like when I was 18 I started it, and I didn't finish it until like 3 or 4 years later. And that's going to be a trunk novel that I will eventually salvage for other projects later on, but it's nothing that's going to be seen. Not yet, at least. In terms of my most recent project, which I'm probably more intimately aware of, I'll give you a funny story. So when I was writing the novel, the rough draft, I was doing what I call rough crafting, where basically you try to like write, edit, and you try to make it as best as you can coming out the gate. And I got to like about chapter 10, and I realized that like, my progress has slowed down to a crawl. One of the things that that I came across, and it was like a painful stimuli, but one of my good friends, who is he is a great writer, he wanted to write alongside me while we were doing a stream. And he says, all right, so we're gonna be like, doing like a quiet like writing thing, so let's see how much we can get done in an hour. Now I'm sitting there agonizing over the story. I'm just writing, and I got maybe 63 words down in 1 hour. 63. It's not good. Not good for me. Meanwhile, my friend did like 1,100 and something, or I don't know. Same hour. And when reading the comparison between my work and his work flowed. I don't know if he was bullshitting me and he just like wrote these 1,000 words ahead of time and just edited it, but it was beautiful writing. It was really well done, and it just made me think that I'm just like sitting here wasting time, that the caliber of that writing compared to like what I've accomplished, right? Like I'm sitting here agonizing over what I think is to be good writing, but I don't have anything to show for it, right? So I think that like that kind of lit a fire under me. It really like it got under my skin and it pissed me off, let's be honest, because I'm sitting here torturing myself writing over things that like they aren't even that great. So why torture yourself? Like, why bother? I think that like in spirit there is 2 ways to respond to something. You can kind of give up, or you can become a little bit more stubborn and be like, no, I'm going to like I'm going to make this dream come true. I'm going to make it happen come hell or high water, and I'm going to try no matter what. So I chose the latter. I want to be a writer. I want to be a novelist. I want to be somebody who can like free himself and be able to live creatively for the rest of his life. That's the dream. That's the goal. And to let that to let my own shortcoming dictate whether or not I can do that, I found that unacceptable. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm writing crap anyways, right? I told myself, if I'm writing crap anyways, I might as well just let it go. Just go ham. Write what you feel. Write, Just write a crappy first draft. Just blow it out. And this is advice that I hear from like a bunch of other writers. There's countless writers who say the same thing. Just write a messy first draft. So I decided, you know what? From that day forward, I'll do it. So I sat down and, you know, after an hour of doing the 63 words, I got off the call with my friend. I shut off everything that was like a distraction. And then I wrote 700 more words. And then the next day I wrote 1,000. And then the day after that, 2,000. And then after that, I keep writing 2,000 a day. Kind of keeping up with the pace. And I chose that number specifically because like, I knew that like that was a number that Stephen King, you know, does per day. So I figured, fuck it. I might as well do the same thing, right? If I can, you know, go on stream and then like do 500 words in 30 minutes. And, you know, if we do our streams in 2-hour chunks, then I should be able to come up with 2,000 words by the end of like, you know, a stream. That was the goal. That's what I wanted. And I did it. So after about 4 to 6 months of torturing myself, trying to craft something, from chapters 1 through 10, all of a sudden, chapters 10 through 30 something went by in a blink. I was able to do 70,000 words worth of content in about a month and a half. Just letting go. Just go for it. And I found that I had the most fun I have ever had with writing when I finally decided enough is enough. I just have to let it go. Stop taking yourself so seriously. Just write because you want to. Write because it feels good. And remember to have fun. So I did. And it was awesome. Like, you know, I had a full first, you know, like rough draft, which is something that I haven't done in so long, carrying a story all the way to the end. And it's funny because like right when I got to the very end, even up to the last pages, I didn't really realize what my book was about until I went through the whole damn draft. The last couple of pages was the most informative, most important thing that dictated what I'm doing right now, which is the first act of the book, and what I must do in order to make that climax way more powerful. So like, I really am a strong believer that like when you're going through the rough draft, you'll eventually find the answers that you need to write a amazing second draft, and even better third draft. I've heard it said that like, you know, you can edit a bad book, but you can't edit a blank page, you know? So I definitely went with the bad book concept first. And I think that it's really greatly rewarding. So like, it says, what changed in your mindset? Do you think content over the right words while when writing the first draft? I think that what changed for me was that like when I compared myself to my friend, right? And like even agonizing and like taking the time to like craft those like 63 words versus the 1,000 something that he wrote, right? It's like, even if I took the time to really, really like slow down and get the right words down, it was still not anywhere in comparison to that, you know what I mean? Like, it just wasn't, like, even if I made it like what I thought was good, it still wasn't good. So like, I could go slow as hell, or I could just like have fun and just let loose, you know what I mean? I think that's like what the realization was. Is that like I was crippling myself to the point where I just couldn't think or, you know, act. I was taking way too long to like, you know, make decisions and just like, you know, go with the flow or just take risks and discover. The rough draft came a lot faster though, because I had a willingness to let go of the inner editor. Whenever I came across scenes that I, you know, didn't like or didn't know, or Like, you know, let's say for example something isn't working and you know it, right? Instead of like deleting and going back, I just say, you know, I write like 2 pound symbols and I would say pretend that this didn't happen and instead pretend that you did it this way, and then just keep moving on, you know, and then just keep writing, moving forward, and then like coming up with like ways of building on a story. It should kind of feel like a fever dream, you know. It's weird. It's a place where you can kind of be playful, fun. Words don't really matter. You just want to like see what elements of the stories are there, like what is useful, what's not. Yeah. So like you know, when I'm doing the first draft, for me it's like I'm looking for emotional moments. Like, you know, there are moments in your writing when you're doing the first draft that even if you're just going fast as hell and it, you know, the wording is crappy, there are still some moments where you're like, oh, that's cool, or oh, I really like this, or oh, this excites me. That's the type of moments that I'm looking for. Those little bits of emotionally charged scenes that you know will be something you know, worthwhile. And those are the things that you want to keep in mind, because that's what you're going to turn into your book later on. So as you like kind of go through and discover more and more about like your novel, you know, eventually you'll come up with like the content necessary to like shrink it down, like, you know, skim off all the crap and then put down the stuff that actually matters. So yeah, to, you know, circle back, and sorry for doing like a long-winded version of this question here, but essentially writing a first draft for a novel will take whatever time that it takes. It could be years, it could be months, it could be weeks, it could be anything really. I think it's just up to you and your process and how you decide like what you want to do, and how you schedule out your time, how you want to like approach your daily goals, and like, you know, what sounds fair to you, you know? Yeah, no, I get you. I get frustrated too, because like a lot of times there, Justin, like one of my favorite things about writing is I love it when a scene feels good, like, you know, feels legible, flows well, and it feels like it hits those emotional like tones correctly. And I love that feeling of like, ah yes, this is some really clever stuff. Like, you know, I love that feeling of like, I'm pretty sure a reader would love this. I think that one of the things that I kind of did when I was kind of like going into this new state of mind, I kind of separated the concept of like of being a writer versus being a storyteller, right? And what do I mean by that? I mean, like, to me, when you're focusing on being a really great writer, in one particular scene, in one particular chapter, it gets to a point where you start to like craft and analyze and work and make things like, you know, really, really sharp as possible. But sometimes it's easy to forget while you're like, you know, in the trenches and trying to make this thing, you know, fantastic, is like the big picture, you know? There's a lot of details that you can include. There's a lot of like, you know, tidbits and lore and things that you can drop, sure. But does it serve the entire story? Does it help the big picture? You'll find that like when you're focused more on the big picture, not how this chapter affects like, you know, a person on a, you know, singular basis, but how it affects the whole story as like as the sum of its parts. I think that's like that's when you start to realize that like, ah yes, I can go a little quicker, and I can use other chapters to like, you know, get this point across later. It's not necessary to dig into so much detail, because there's going to be opportunities for that later. And you start to like, you know, make decisions later on about like, well, let's you know, we're gonna have to sacrifice some of these ideas, you know, killing your darlings, in order to like make the pace and the flow and allow the story to survive, you know? Because that's at the end of the day, it's the storytelling. It's how well you can get your the story across and present it in the best light, in the most efficient means, and in the most fun manner. And, you know, and if that means like removing some of the zones where you stop and like talk about the wonders of horse husbandry. you know, then yeah, I don't know. You just like remove that bit and just say, ah, yes, we have fun with horses, and we, you know, we ride around. It's great, good times. Anywho, so yeah, to you know, wrap that up with that question there. The draft, it's going to take as long as it needs to, and it's greatly dependent on like how you want to schedule it, what you want to achieve, and how you write in terms of like, you know, what is successful writing to you. I think a rough draft should be dirty and messy. A lot of people believe that it should be like a really, you know, well done. So, you know, and either school of thought is like, you know, is correct on that one. You know, you can do anything that makes you happy when it comes to writing, as long as you do write. So, hard answer. But hopefully, at least the life experiences on that, you know, kind of makes it a little easier for you to like relate a little. You're not alone. And if you feel like you're taking a long time, don't, you know, we all move at our own pace. In terms of like the final draft and when that's going to be done, I don't know. Because like, you know, there's so many different meanings for like, you know, final draft. What do you mean by final draft? As in like, I'm looking for grammar only? Or am I just looking for, you know, I don't know, like, does my story have like white room syndrome where there's nothing detailed in the setting and I must go around and like check around for that, or, you know, continuity errors, or like, are the characters acting consistent or whatever? Like, it depends. I don't know. I don't know how long it takes. Right now, I'm still struggling with the second draft and trying to understand what it means to like find an efficient process for that. So I think we'll eventually kind of come to something solid. Let's try another question here. Let's see here. Do you use prompts or just write from scratch? And I think this was a two-parter. Hold on a second. So yeah, do you use prompts or just write from scratch? I write from scratch. Not, well, kind of half and half. Like, an idea comes to me when I like consume media, when I watch something or when I experience something, or like, you know, it doesn't come from absolutely nothing, you know, like you can't, like for me, I can't create in a vacuum. I would have to go around and then like, you know, watch a movie, play a video game, find something that inspires me, and then you know, my brain automatically goes, yeah, that's cool, but what if they did this instead? And what if it's this character instead? And you start like, you know, in your mind just kind of like role playing and fantasizing about you being that character and what it's like, or, you know, any cool ideas or spins that you want to like, you know, take on that story, right? And that becomes like the seed of an idea. It's like, oh, well, you know, I really like race cars, and I think vampires are awesome, so I'm going to do vampire car racing. And, you know, I will, you know, I think taking like the things that like you find amazingly fun, you know what I mean? It's a lot easier to write content for that. So like trying to like take the things that you really enjoy, things that fascinate you, taking inspiration from like what you see and consume, and then sometimes just like, you know, allowing your brain to like kind of move around and like come up with a story as you just kind of like experience life, you know? It could be simply something as simple as like you sitting at a cafe, and you're just like kind of doing some people watching, and you see like an interesting person with like several different hats, or like, you know, some kind of, you know, big peacock plume flying out from his, you know, his long hat. I don't know. And then your brain immediately is hooked, is interested, and it's like, well, why is he like that? What is the story behind this? And sometimes a writer's brain can't help but come up with its own story as to why. And you start like, you know, enjoying the little trip that it kind of takes you on, and, you know, those little narratives that we get inside of our head is kind of a story in and of itself, you know? So I think it's just kind of finding what you find interesting, an idea that you believe in, something that you like, and something that you're gonna enjoy and be committed to. Because, you know, if you're gonna write something, you might as well like, you know, enjoy the content. Like, don't write something to try to impress other people. Write something that you genuinely love and enjoy, and you would love to spend time on, because it will resonate with other people. I feel like readers can kind of like sense some of the energy that you put into a book. Like, if you're bored, they're gonna sense that. But if you're really excited and you're like nerding out about this certain thing, like you know, if you look at Tolkien, who is kind of like nerding out about like, you know, history, language, and like world building, people flock to that, right? So like you know, maybe his narrative isn't like, you know, 100% action packed and high speed, you know, high octane work, but it attracted a crowd regardless. So like, you know, that's what he loved, that's what he did, and you know, people respected that and they came to it. So I think finding out what you know, what you really enjoy, you know, finding ways to like kind of fuse that into like what you're trying to like create, or you know, any like story seed ideas that you can find. And that's kind of like the method I do when coming up with like a story from scratch. Which is to say, I don't not use prompts. I use prompts in a different way though. When I do prompts, I treat that as in like going into like Dungeons and Dragons, for example, right? It feels like when I'm doing Dungeons and Dragons, everything's a prompt, right? Everything. So like, for example, like, you know, being able to kind of like think on your feet and come up with a reason, like, you know, think of yourself as like a talking to a child, right? When a kid asks you something, at least when a kid asks me something, they ask me, well, why does that thing do this, or why does that thing do that? And sometimes, to entertain them, I give them a very silly answer as to why, but something that would make sense logically, kind of. But that's like where, you know, stories like Santa Claus comes from. Like, why did I get a bunch of gifts under the tree? It's like, oh, well, a fat man slipped through a chimney and came out of nowhere and, you know, gave you some gifts because you were good, you know? And then the kids are like, you know, what? But that's a story, you know? Like, they buy it, and, you know, as long as it works well with the narrative, then yeah, it works, right? I had a similar situation, like, you know, again, another prompt. While I was doing Dungeons and Dragons, one of my players was noticing that, like, I took pictures of like the tokens, or the characters, right, from the book, but they came out a little bit redder, like, you know, they just appeared red for some reason, right? Don't know why. So like when I, you know, posted it into the thing, they just appeared like red-skinned people, even though I described them as humans. But they happen to be working at a tavern, right? So one of the characters, or one of the player characters, being snarky and, you know, like a wise guy, basically comes over and basically says, well, why, I just gotta know, why are you so red, right? They said, you know, making fun of what I'm doing. Now, again, thinking back to that, like, you know, explaining things to a child type of thing, I considered, well, why are they red, you know? I know that they're not red, they're not supposed to be red, but like, when you're doing in a prompt, it's almost like improvisation, where you say yes and, right? And you just come up with like a reason why. It doesn't have to make sense. Well, it has to make sense in some regard, so long as you can like back up the logic, sort of, right? So why are they so red? And I was thinking, well, they work at a tavern. And then I just kind of, you know, quickly answered, it's the wine. We drink a lot of wine, and it just kind of turns you red. It's like, you know, and then I kind of just like said, you know, yes and I'm like, well, if you actually spend a week drinking this, you'll turn red too, you know? Now we have an interesting thing. The wine turns people red. That's weird, you know? It's kind of like a hook, because now people are like, you know, you take something that's kind of like silly and, you know, offhand, and turn it into like, well, that's an interesting story. And you can think, well, why does that happen, you know? And then you can kind of just like continue the bullshit from there, right? Well, why does it stain your, you know, body red? I mean, like, I guess it could be the berries, maybe. When you eat a lot of carrots, you turn orange, some people say. So like, So it's kind of like, you know, being open to like thoughts that way. So prompts aren't so bad. I do use prompts, but only like in a D&D setting, I would say. whenever you know, the story ends, or like whenever a session ends, or when a character proposes something, to me that's like a prompt to like come up with something in answer, you know. And it's a great way to kind of like think on your feet and come up with like a some kind of story concept. So let's see here. Another question. How do you know your idea is ready to be written rather than be left to grow? That's an interesting question. How do you know when your idea is ready to be written? I think that like whenever I approach a story, or whenever I receive ideas, not every single idea is worthy of being written, right? In terms of like, what do I mean by that? I mean that like whenever I get an idea, I don't immediately feel the urge to be like, oh yeah, I gotta write about that, you know? But sometimes when I do feel the urge, you'll know when you know. Like, you know, you get this idea, like, you know, something pops up, and then you like, you know, you question, you think about it, you're wondering why, and then you start getting like the little seeds of an idea of like, or possibilities of things that can happen. And maybe you get like flashes of like, you know, ooh, that would be so cool for a climax, or ooh, that would be so cool as like a concept. How can I add more to that, or how can I talk more about that? And then you start to like think like, you know, what can we do? Kind of like if, you know, if you were to like break down, let's say, you know, Harry Potter, for example, it's like, oh, I really love magic and, you know, magicians and stuff. And, you know, I think that school is like super boring, but what if you went to school to become a wizard? Ah, yeah. And then like, you know, well, what if? What would happen there? There's got to be like a bad guy or something, you know, someone to stop him. And then, well, why is this bad guy like after him? You know, and then you start like, you know, following the trail from there, and you come up with like more and more reasons to like kind of play with yourself and be like, ah, you know, I think that this should happen, or this should happen, and you just go wild and crazy, and eventually turns into like something that becomes irresistible, something that you're like, all right, well, I just like, you know, I may not be writing narrative right now, but I'm writing ideas down. I'm writing down like, you know, the little scenes here and there, or I'm writing like, you know, story beats or things like that. I'm like, I find myself like, you know, more and more getting drawn back to that idea, just really wanting to work on it. And I think that's like eventually when you like poke at it enough, you're like, okay, I think I have enough to make a story, you know? Like it just feels like, all right, you know, I got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I'm getting kind of antsy. Like I feel like I don't want to wait any longer, so yeah, let's try it. Let's you know, take it to narrative and see what happens, and you just play around. I think like that's the type of like feeling that I get when I'm doing writing and trying to like know whether or not my idea is ready. Other than like rather to be left to grow, that's an interesting statement. Rather than be left to grow, I think I've done that. Now that you think, now that you mention it, like, you know, for example, I've read a lot of like lit RPGs. I love lit RPGs. They're fantastic. They're a lot of fun. I would love to write one. I know I do. Do I have any idea what kind of story I would like to write? Hell no. Have not given it a single thought. But it's a spark, it's a interest, and it's certainly a thing where I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to try that. I haven't really thought about what I want to do with it yet. But, you know, that's definitely on my to-do list. That, I think that would be the prime example of like something to be left to grow, I guess. Because I'm probably going to like, you know, do something like that later on, but yeah. All right, let's move on. Another one. How do you know if an idea is novel worthy, or if it should be something shorter like a novella or a short story? That's kind of like a rewording of like what we wrote. Similar question, but a good one nonetheless. So let's see here. How do I know if an idea is novel worthy? I think we discussed that quite well, so we can kind of refer back to that in a little bit. Or if it's something that should be shorter like a novella or a short story. I think that like novels, short stories, novellas, they're all a very different type of animal when it comes to like writing. I feel like it's a very different type of structure, a different type of pacing, and yeah, it's just a completely different beast. I'm not well versed in short stories, so I honestly can't really give too much information about that. But I would assume it works probably the same, but in a very shorter scale. In terms of like deciding whether or not your idea is novel worthy, or like, you know, if will it like, you know, go the distance. I think that any story could technically go the distance. There's no reason why it can't. It's just a matter of like, is this something that you would like to follow and pursue for, you know, this long? Or is this like, you know, a character that you feel like you can build over this period of time? Is there enough content that you can, you know, hold up during that period of time? These are all, you know, questions that you should consider. And there's no reason why you can't just like write a story and then just kind of like go as far as you can, right? You write until you feel satisfied that the work is done, and if it's shorter than a novel, so publish it as a novella. There's nothing wrong with that, so long as the story feels satisfying, you know. Like, you know, it starts off well, it's got a solid hook, then, you know, the middle is interesting, and it ends in a satisfying way. A story is a story, and, you know, to deem something whether, you know, to worthy, you know, I feel like that's a little it's a little harsh to kind of like say this idea is not worthy enough to make it the whole distance. Like, you know, it's just I don't think that there's much of a question there in terms of like worthiness. All ideas are really worthy. I mean, you can take like a look at Jim Butcher's Codex Alera, right? Now, he you know, short story for those of the you know, who don't know. Jim Butcher wrote a story based on a bet, right? He had a bet with somebody, and because they were having a discussion, an argument on the idea that the golden idea is the thing that makes a novel great, right? Whereas Jim Butcher came from the concept of the golden idea doesn't matter. Ideas don't matter. It's the execution of such ideas that matters, right? You can take stupid ideas and make them fantastic so long as you write it well enough. And they had a discussion back and forth, and then you know, it got to the point where Jim got really heated, and he says, you know what, I tell you what, I'm going to write a novel based on not only one but two stupid ideas, and I'll let you pick. So the guy's like, all right, I got two stupid ideas for you. I want you to take the concept of the lost Roman legion and do something interesting with it, right? He's like, all right, cool. Lost Roman legion, great. He says, all right, cool. And fuse that with Pokemon. And Codex Alera was born. He made an awesome story. Great fantasy about, like, you know, these spirits that would like hang out with you, and you'd be able to, like, you know, use their powers. Almost like it was Avatar The Last Airbender before Avatar The Last Airbender was created. And you have all these like metal, wood, and fire, like all these like cool elemental powers and stuff. And then you can have up to a total of 6, you know, elements that you can control, number one. And also they had a giant mountain named Gyarados. So it was literally I proved it to you that you can like literally take any stupid idea and make it a phenomenal piece, so long as you execute well. So definitely, you know, the idea of worthiness doesn't matter. Let's see here. I think we answered all the questions. Yeah, look at that. Not bad. If you guys have any other questions, feel free. But hopefully that pieces together what we were discussing. Yes, the idea must be important to you, or at least it must be important to the character. So like, if the character finds this this concept important, right, and you can come up with the necessary you know, markers of progress if you can come up with the necessary you know, tension involved with this concept, then you will write an interesting story, you know? It's just gotta matter. Let's see here. All right, we've been on a roll today. Tight. Have I ever found an idea that's already been done and it kills you? I would say I've seen ideas that are done before, but only in regards to a like, I don't know, like if I came up with like an invention or something that I wanted to, like, you know, pursue or whatever, and it's already been done before, yeah, I'll feel like, you know, upset. But if I've seen that somebody else has done like a similar concept, like sword and sorcery or some kind of novel involved in, like, you know, some kind of concept, like, I don't know, an isekai, a lit RPG, anything like that, no, not really. I mean, yeah, they've done it, but doesn't mean that, like, you know, you can't do it and in your own way. I mean, like, you know, how crappy would it be if, like, somebody was basically like, oh, well, my story revolves around, you know, getting sucked into a video game world, and no one else, literally no one else can make that concept. There'd be a lot of less, like, you know, genres of the book. You'd have to rely on that guy alone to come up with the content that you're craving, right? I eat up lit RPGs like no one's business, right? And I can't get enough of them. I have to have more. When I finish one, I need another one, right? So having other people doing the same thing is not the worst thing in the world. They always have their own spin on it. They always have their own perspective, and I still get it because it's great. And I just want to be in that fantasy and then live in that universe, you know, because it's cool. So, you know, if somebody's already done something, who cares? No one's ever told the story that you told. All right, guys, it's that time. It is 10:03, so it's time to wrap up our stream here. But I'm very happy for some of the content that we got through to today. We had a lot of great discussions, and again, if you guys missed that, don't worry. You can check it out on our Discord by hitting !Discord in our stream archive. We're going to be having a highlights video of some of the discussions that we talked about. That way, you guys can have access to that and, you know, check it out. You can also check out some of this stream highlights in our YouTube channel as well. It's a good way to do it as well. If you guys aren't followed, I recommend you do. Leave a follow. It's a great way to get notified when we do this type of stuff. We usually host our streams on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. And it's a really grand old time. I enjoy the hell out of doing this stuff, and it's a lot of fun. Other than that, guys, my name is NovelistCrim. This was Writing Company and Motivation. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I think I'm excited to see, like, where this novel is going to go, and hopefully we can learn together, share together, and get things done. So take it easy, Sparks, and as always, stay passionate.